Carlos Santana walked into a small San Francisco bar in 1971, looking for a drink, not a guitarist. His band was on top of the world after Woodstock. He had his pick of any musician in the country, but when he heard someone playing guitar in the corner, really playing with technique and soul that made Carlos stop mid-step, he turned around and saw a kid. Not a young man. A kid, 15 years old, still in high school, but playing guitar like he'd been born with the instrument in his hands. Carlos walked over. "How old are you?" "15, sir. You just joined Santana. Call your parents." That 15-year-old was Neal Schon, and he would go on to form Journey and write Don't Stop Believin'. But first, he had to finish his homework. In 1971, Carlos Santana was riding high. 2 years after Woodstock, he was one of the biggest names in rock music. His self-titled debut album had gone multi-platinum. Abraxas was dominating the charts. He was selling out arenas across America. At just 24 years old, Carlos had achieved what most musicians only dream of. But success brought pressure. The record label wanted more hits, promoters wanted more tours, and Carlos's band was in flux. Musicians were leaving, fighting, burning out from the constant grind of fame. Carlos needed fresh blood. Someone young, hungry, talented. Someone who reminded him of himself a few years earlier. That's why he was in a small bar in the Bay Area that October night. He'd heard there was a young guitarist playing there who was supposed to be good. Carlos didn't expect much. He'd heard a lot of good guitarists who turned out to be mediocre, but a friend had insisted he check this kid out, so Carlos figured he'd grab a drink and listen for a few minutes before heading home. The bar was nothing special. Sticky floors, dim lighting, maybe 50 people scattered around. Carlos found a spot near the back, where he wouldn't be recognized, and ordered a beer. On the small stage, a teenage boy was setting up his equipment. He looked impossibly young, skinny, long hair, wearing clothes that were slightly too big, like he was still growing into them. Carlos almost left. This kid looked like he should be doing homework, not playing a professional gig. But then the boy picked up his guitar and started to play. Carlos froze. Within the first 10 seconds, he knew he was hearing something special. The technique was extraordinary. This kid had clearly spent thousands of hours practicing, but it wasn't just technical ability. The kid had feel, soul. He was making the guitar sing in a way that couldn't be taught, only felt. Carlos moved closer to the stage, watching the boy's fingers fly across the fretboard. The kid was playing a blues rock fusion that showed influences from B.B. King, Eric Clapton, and Carlos realized with a start from Santana himself. This kid had been listening to Carlos's albums, studying his style, but then adding his own voice to it. The small crowd in the bar didn't seem to fully appreciate what they were witnessing. They were talking, drinking, barely paying attention, but Carlos was transfixed. He'd been discovered by Bill Graham in a small club just like this 3 years earlier, and now he was watching history repeat itself. This 15-year-old kid was the real deal. When the set ended, Carlos walked straight up to the stage. The kid was packing up his guitar, looking tired and a little discouraged by the crowd's indifference. He looked up and saw Carlos Santana standing in front of him. The kid's eyes went wide. "Oh my God, you're Carlos Santana. What's your name?" Carlos asked. "Neal. Neal Schon." "How old are you, Neal?" 15. The kid looked nervous, like he thought maybe that was the wrong answer. Carlos shook his head in disbelief. 15 years old, and playing like that. Who taught you to play? "My dad started me when I was young, but mostly I taught myself. I listen to your albums all the time. Abraxas changed my life. Carlos felt something shift in his chest. 3 years ago he'd been this kid, unknown, hungry, desperate for someone to believe in him. Bill Graham had believed, and Bill's belief had changed everything. "You're really good," Carlos said. "Like, really good. Better than most professional guitarists I know." Neal's face lit up. "Thank you. That means everything coming from you. How would you like to join my band?" Neal stared at him. "What? My band, Santana. We're about to start a new album and tour. I need a guitarist. You're it." "But I'm 15. I'm still in high school." "I don't care," Carlos said. "You're the best young guitarist I've ever heard. This is your shot. Are you taking it or not?" Neal's hands were shaking. "I need to ask my parents." Carlos smiled. "Then call your parents. Tell them Carlos Santana wants to hire their son, and tell them we leave for the studio in 2 weeks." Neal Schon went home that night and had the most surreal conversation of his young life with his parents, Matthew and Barbara Schon. "Mom, Dad, you're not going to believe this. Carlos Santana was at my gig tonight. He wants me to join his band." His parents thought he was joking or exaggerating. 15-year-olds have active imaginations. But the next day, Carlos himself called the Schon household to confirm that yes, he wanted to hire their son, and yes, he understood Neal was only 15, and yes, he would make sure Neal was taken care of on the road. Matthew and Barbara Schon faced an impossible decision. Their son was being offered the opportunity of a lifetime. But he was 15, still a child. High school wasn't finished, and they'd be sending him on the road with rock musicians, not exactly known for their wholesome lifestyle. But they could also see the fire in Neal's eyes. Music wasn't a hobby for their son. It was everything. And this was Carlos Santana, a serious musician, a professional, someone who clearly recognized Neal's talent and wanted to nurture it. After long discussions and negotiations, the Shons said yes, Neal could join Santana, but he had to keep up with his schoolwork through correspondence courses. He couldn't drink or do drugs, and Carlos had to promise to look out for him. Carlos agreed to everything. He saw this not just as hiring a guitarist, but as mentoring the next generation. Bill Graham had done that for him. Now it was Carlos's turn to do it for someone else. In late 1971, 15-year-old Neal Schon officially joined Santana. The rest of the band was shocked when this kid showed up for rehearsal. Some of them were skeptical. Carlos had hired a child, but the moment Neal started playing, all doubts evaporated. This child could outplay most of them. For Neal, it was surreal. 1 month he was in high school, worrying about algebra tests and trying to get girls to notice him. The next month, he was rehearsing with one of the biggest bands in the world, learning arrangements for songs that would be played in arenas. Carlos took Neal under his wing. He taught him not just about music, but about performing, about handling pressure, about staying grounded when the world was telling you you're special. All the lessons Bill Graham had taught Carlos, Carlos now passed on to Neal. "Remember," Carlos told Neal during one of their early rehearsals, "the guitar is just a tool. What matters is what you do with it. Are you using it to show off? Or are you using it to move people? Are you playing for your ego? Or are you playing to serve the music?" Neal soaked up everything. He watched how Carlos commanded a stage, how he connected with audiences, how he made his guitar sing, and he practiced relentlessly. While the other band members partied after shows, 15-year-old Neal would be in his hotel room running scales and working on his technique. In 1972, Santana released Caravanserai, the first album to feature Neal Schon. Critics and fans immediately noticed the young guitarist's contributions. His playing added a new dimension to Santana's sound, more rock-oriented, more aggressive, but still soulful. For the next 2 years, Neal toured the world with Santana. He played massive festivals, recorded hit albums, met his heroes, and most importantly, learned from one of the best guitarists in the business. But by 1973, Neal was 17 and starting to feel restless. He'd been playing Carlos's music for 2 years. He was grateful, incredibly grateful, but he also had his own musical ideas, songs he wanted to write, a sound he wanted to explore that was different from Santana's Latin rock fusion. Carlos noticed Neal's restlessness, and instead of being threatened or angry, he understood completely. He'd felt the same way about mariachi music when he was 17. The need to break free, to create something new, to find your own voice. That was part of being an artist. You're thinking about leaving, aren't you? Carlos asked Neal after a show one night. Neal looked startled. I don't want to be ungrateful. You gave me everything. You don't owe me gratitude, Carlos interrupted. You owe me great music. If that means staying with Santana, great. If that means leaving to create your own thing, also great. What matters is that you're true to yourself. I have some ideas, Neal admitted. Songs I want to write. A different sound than what we're doing. Carlos smiled. Then you should do it. You're 17 now. When I was 17, all I wanted was someone to believe in me enough to let me try. I'm believing in you now. Go create something amazing. Neal left Santana in 1973, and almost immediately he co-founded a band called Journey. At first, they were a progressive rock band with complex arrangements and instrumental virtuosity. But by the late 1970s, they devolved into an arena rock powerhouse. In 1981, Journey released Escape, featuring a song called Don't Stop Believin'. Neal Schon wrote the iconic guitar riff, that instantly recognizable opening that has now been heard billions of times across the world. The song became one of the most famous rock anthems of all time, and every time Neal played that opening riff, he thought about Carlos Santana walking into a small bar in 1971 and telling a 15-year-old kid, "You just joined my band." Over the years, Neal and Carlos remained close. They'd see each other at industry events, collaborate occasionally, and always greet each other with genuine affection. Their relationship had evolved from mentor-student to peers, but the foundation of respect and gratitude never changed. In interviews, Neal always credited Carlos for his career. "Without Carlos taking a chance on me, there is no Journey," he said repeatedly. "He didn't just give me a job. He taught me how to be a professional musician, how to serve the music, how to handle success without losing yourself. Everything I know about being an artist, I learned from watching Carlos." And Carlos would always deflect the praise. "Neal was already incredible when I met him. I just gave him a platform. He did the hard work. He created Journey. He wrote the songs. All I did was recognize talent when I saw it, the same way Bill Graham recognized my talent." That's the part of this story that makes it so beautiful. Bill Graham discovered Carlos Santana in a small club and changed his life. Carlos Santana discovered Neal Schon in a small club and changed his life. And someday, Neal Schon would probably discover some young guitarist in a small club and change their life. This is how legacies work in music. You don't just create great songs. You create great musicians. You pay forward the belief that someone showed in you. You recognize talent in others and give them the platform to shine. Today, Don't Stop Believin' is one of the most streamed songs of all time. It's been used in countless movies, TV shows, and commercials. It's a cultural touchstone, a song that spans generations, and every time someone hears that opening guitar riff, they're hearing the work of a guitarist who was discovered at 15 by Carlos Santana. The story of Carlos and Neal reminds us that great musicians aren't just born, they're discovered, nurtured, and given opportunities. Carlos could have walked out of that bar without talking to the teenage guitarist. He could have thought, the kid's good, but he's too young. He could have played it safe and hired an experienced professional. But Carlos remembered what it felt like to be young and hungry and desperate for someone to believe in you. He remembered Bill Graham seeing past his fears and insecurities to recognize his talent. And when he saw that same raw talent in a 15-year-old kid, he did what Bill had done for him. He took a chance. That chance created Journey. That chance gave the world Don't Stop Believin'. That chance proved that sometimes the best thing you can do for music is invest in the next generation. Years later, reflecting on discovering Neal, Carlos said, "When I heard that kid playing in the bar, I saw myself, young, talented, and needing someone to open a door. Bill opened a door for me. I opened a door for Neal. That's how it's supposed to work. You don't keep success to yourself. You share it. You pass it on. You find the next kid with a guitar and a dream, and you tell them you can do this. I believe in you." That's the real legacy. Not the albums or the awards, but the musicians you help create. Neal Schon went from a 15-year-old playing in a small bar to one of the most successful guitarists in rock history. Journey has sold over 80 million records worldwide. Don't Stop Believin' is a cultural phenomenon, and it all started because Carlos Santana walked into a bar looking for a drink and found a future legend instead. If this story of how guitar legends discover and nurture the next generation moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with any young musician who needs to hear that their big break might be one performance away. Have you ever had someone believe in you when you were young and change your life? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible true stories about the moments that created music history.